Hello and welcome to Masters of the Deal, the podcast where we uncover the personal stories behind billion-dollar deal makers. As the region head for Ideals VDR, I help deal makers close their transactions faster with our virtual data rooms. Over the past 2 decades, I've got to know many of them personally and professionally. So I take this opportunity to tease out how they got to the top. Join me and learn what it takes to become a master of the deal. Introducing Siddhartha Desai, a capital market lawyer with deep expertise in how companies go public and raise capital on both the equity and debt side. Siddharth's advised issuers, underwriters, and selling shareholders across banking and financial services, engineering, healthcare, pharma, and entertainment. Part of the JSA team that advised on the State Bank of India QIP in Jan 2014, one of India's largest ever equity raises. Is it still the largest ever? Or has it changed since?
It, I mean that track record has been broken a couple of times. In fact, even if you see the recent filing of NSC yesterday, which is of
Uh-huh.
around 30,000 crore ticket size, we are anticipating maybe Chio may beat that number as well with the filing maybe later this week or thereafter. But yes, the numbers are going north from here, from what we gather overall in the industry.
How big of a was the SBI raise? How many crores was it?
So that was around 5,000 crores, if I'm not mistaken. That should be around that number. But gradually, again, primarily that was a QIP for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
While the IPOs are fundamentally growing, we did the NTPC Green Energy IPO as well of around 10,000 crores couple of years back, and then gradually things are moving north from here because fair bit of investments are coming through
Mm-hmm.
in the country. Even if on the flip side, if you see, the FIs are discounting the India story for a temporary lull for that matter. But there
Mm-hmm.
is fair bit of investments, fair bit of DIs which are also there in India, basis which the deals are also actually panning through very positively.
Understood. You were also part of the underwriting team for the Quest Corp IPO in 2017, which was oversubscribed 147 times. And you've also been recognized as India's future legal leader by India Business Law in 2023. So, welcome to the show. We will chit chat about all this and more. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, Harsh, for this opportunity.
So, Siddharth, you've been with GSA Law, I mean, almost all your career. I was looking at, your career track. You've been with one firm for the longest time, but in terms of education, I see that you are a Mumbai boy, right?
That's correct. I mean, while technically I was born in Delhi, at that point in time, after just around 6 to 8 months of my delivery, we moved to Bombay. But originally, or rather collectively, it's been a Bombay city for me altogether, and
Hmm.
that's been the ethos and that's been the thought process all throughout. Yeah.
And what drew you to law? Like, why not investment banking? Why not sales?
Correct. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question, and that's a question which I speak to many students also nowadays in terms of what's the thought process given how the different ideas are also coming through basis AI and other platforms as well. So for me, primarily, while my father is a CA, my elder brother is an MBA. Over there at that point in time, just when I was finishing graduation, at that point in time, while I was clear that science is not part of my bread and butter, which I can think through from a long-term perspective. So then, obviously, ideas were to evaluate between a CA, an MBA, or a law as well, for that matter. So then I explored various thoughts, had discussions with certain experts in other industries as well, and then after fair bit of discussion evaluation with my family, then I decided to go down the route of doing law itself, and at least start with that exercise. Take up BCom. I graduated from Narsimhanji in Mumbai, from the Mumbai University, and then take up LLB thereafter.
How hard was it? It was supposed to be super hard.
It was challenging a bit, but gradually, I feel how it goes through is that the moment you have a mindset of moving towards a particular direction, then it automatically falls into place. It shouldn't be in a situation that you're not pre-planned, or you've not studied through in terms of what is forthcoming towards that topic or towards that journey which you are planning through for the rest of your life, fundamentally. And at least from that perspective, I always have a thought process of having a long-term story in terms of whatever I do. So that way, the intention was to see something after evaluating all pros and cons, discussing it with various individuals, experts, families, etc., and then plan it out in terms of jumping into the pool and just go all guns gazing. So that's the thought process which we follow.
And that long-term view, do you still has that stayed with you over time? Do you still think 5, 10 years out?
Not really. I mean, it's been north. To be very transparent, touchwood. Since the day I started as an intern in JSA back in 2010, and it's been positive. Whether it be it, if I can certainly put it across, courtesy COVID as well, our practice area has been phenomenally growing day in and day out, and in a way, the capital markets as an industry overall is just booming. Let me put it across candidly, and everyone is frankly benefiting, whether it be the councils, the merchant bankers, or other industry experts as well. And because frankly, across sectors and across cities, we see there is fair bit of potential, whether it be tier one towns or even tier two, tier three cities as well. The promoters, founders, they have fair bit of potential in terms of what they are doing. And again, these are not boilerplate manufacturing companies. These are companies in different sectors altogether. So they have the thought process of coming up with a new storyline, coming out with new business models, which have not been even tested many a times in the industry. And in a way, they don't have many listed peers as well from a comparison perspective. So, which gives them an edge as well over and above the other players who may be there, sort of connected but not directly connected. So that helps them in the storyline overall.
Very, very interesting. And corporate law versus criminal law versus there's so many types of law. Why did you get drawn to this side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good question, and that's one of the important steps which one has to take when he or she decides upon law. When the person starts doing the internship, taking up internships in, whether be it in law firms or corporates, or with individual practicing partners as well. Yes, that is one of the base criteria which one has to evaluate. Now, over there, I personally feel it all is dependent upon the mindset which the individual has, and what he or she is comfortable in doing from a long-term perspective. Because in terms of, say, a corporate law versus doing hardcore litigation, whether it be civil litigation, criminal litigation, or anything else as well, if someone has the mindset, someone has the uh, thought process of how to tackle it going forward, that is the differentiator which one has to evaluate. In fact, on the flip side, even from a corporate law perspective, people evaluate depending upon what may be their mindset in terms of having a, it could be a balanced lifestyle altogether. Don't want to spend in maybe 18 hours or 16 hours all throughout the day, and even working over the weekends, etc. as well. So from that perspective, many individuals also explore the route of just going in-house with corporates in their legal departments, in their legal teams, and sort of have a work-life balance as well. So that's also one of the criterias which a person evaluates when he or she is considering a law and what will be the plan of action subsequently.
how closely do you work with investment bankers? In a particular deal, in almost every bit that I see with ideals, whenever there's a transaction in which they're using us, there are multiple parties, but every party has the corporate law firms. They have the advisors, which are investment banks. They also have their own internal CFO, M&A team, if they're very big teams, and often you work together to get a common output. Um, has that changed since you started as an intern till now? Has that setup changed? Um, has the whole deal making process with the people you work with changed, or is it just the same but maybe more streamlined?
I would say the latter. It's more streamlined because the expectation from SEBI has grown up drastically from what it was around 15 years back. At that point in time, in terms of doing an exercise of an IPO for that matter, let's say for example, that was slightly more lenient and very straightforward as well. Subsequently, as things as time passed, SEBI, in their wisdom and given the feedback which has been coming through from the investors as well, investor community overall in India and globally as well, the overall thought process of how an IPO can be conducted, what should be the checks and balances which should be mindful, which one should be mindful, whether it be it from a founder's perspective or from a investment banker's perspective, those have gradually evolved, I would say, in a right direction. And in a way, it is a mammoth task to do an IPO in the current scheme of things, which is helpful as well. Because now, I would say, in a way, we are aligning ourselves with the global standards as well. Given, if you see the numbers, whether be it in the last 3 to 5 years as well, the investments which have come through in terms of, IPOs or even QIPs for that matter, that have substantively also been supported by FI investments as well, which will in a way give a signal that a number one, the companies which are coming out with IPOs are strong entities with good potential, good pipeline, very effective founders who have a thought process from a future perspective as well, and in parallel having confidence in terms of the regulatory setup also which is there, whether be it with SEBI or even BSE and NSE as well, uh, as they being the stock exchange leading stock exchanges in India, they also play an active role in ensuring that when an offer document is submitted to them, at least from an IPO perspective primarily, uh, they also ensure that certain checks and balances are taken care of from their perspective. They send across fair bit of observations as well, which the issuer company needs to adhere to. So net, things have drastically changed in the right direction, and the intention is with the thought process of getting the feedback which has been coming through from investor communities or globally as well, as we right now as well, right, we are to an extent the fourth largest economy in the country, in the world. We are sort of comparing ourselves with competing ourselves with Germany. So from that perspective, things have been moving north, and which will only be north from here. Don't see there to be any downside as such. I mean, there may be uh, say sort of a lull period in terms of launches to an extent. However, the potential has been very strong. Even if we see, one can have a thought process that courtesy the MOU which is just signed with respect to the war has been a positive movement. However, we still don't have certainty in terms of what's going to happen with the nuclear weapon as well. That was the bottom line, which was everyone was very concerned about. We still don't have visibility on that. So we'll have to wait and watch, because we are seeing even the FY26 numbers, or even Q1 numbers, or to an extent the Q2 numbers also, which will be forthcoming. It may not be that positive, and people, whether they are directly or indirectly connected or impacted with the war, there has been a bit of impact, but that's a temporary lull. That happens in cycles from time to time. It's again sector agnostic to an extent, but it's more about the sentiments. On the flip side, we can also see that there is fair bit of domestic money also, which is already in existence in the country. If we look at the numbers, from DI's perspective, in fact, SEBI had some time back released a public report as well in terms of the money which retail investors are sitting on, in terms of from savings perspective or FD's perspective as well. So there is
Mhm.
fair bit of unlocking which is possible, which currently is not the case. Yes, one is, I mean, as an individual, everyone tries to evaluate asset planning from time to time, whether be it in terms of gold or other asset cycles as well, or maybe debt as well for that matter, just to
Mhm.
ensure that fair bit of run rate is coming through positively. But there is fair bit of potential also on the flip side, which is there.
So buy versus sell side. When you're involved in a transaction, is your work predominantly the same in the due diligence process? Do you prefer one side versus the other when you get pulled in?
I mean, that's a good question, and many a times we do face that catch-22 situation, depending on which role you are under, whether you are acting for the issuer company, or whether you are acting for the merchant bankers, or in some instances whether you are acting for the investors as well, as a
Mhm.
selling shareholder. So, on paper, yes, you have to be in a particular capacity, you have to play a particular role. However, personally, my thought is to have a mindset of falling through a common goal itself, which you, I guess, correctly highlighted previously, that the deal has to be sealed. That is the objective. We have to conclude the listing positively in the interest of all parties, to ensure from a regulatory check perspective, all hygiene checks are taken care of. There are no red flags, there are no bottlenecks. If there are any such situation, then we need to iron it out upfront itself before we become a listed company. So net, it I would say it's a comprehensive collective exercise, which individuals in the ecosystem in this sort of industry follows through regularly. And on the flip side, yes, since on paper you have the role or responsibility towards a particular client, it could be your issuer company, it could be your merchant bankers as well. You have to an extent, safeguard their interest as well. So one has to balance out. It's sort of as simple as that, with the intention that everything is planned out in the right direction for the final goal of getting the listing done, after ensuring all regulatory checks are adhered to.
Is the process the same? I mean, is there a checklist which you follow? You have to tick off all the things, irrespective of which side you're representing.
Uh, Partially, yes. The checklist is common, since the end goal is also towards ensuring the listing is done, all the necessary adherence in terms of law, etc., are completed. So that is there. However, in terms of the roles and responsibilities of each party, and primarily from a party perspective, I mean to say the councils involved in the transaction, each of the councils have a distinct role, as on that basis thought process of divide and conquer, we'll be able to achieve the listing basis a certain timeline which the promoters or which the merchant bankers would be evaluating. So there is certain deliverables which need to be planned out by, say, a company council, versus what, on the flip side, a merchant bankers council has to be anchoring primarily. And yes, on the flip side, both the opposite parties or opposite councils also need to time to time sort of revalidate the deliverables of what the counterparties council has been processing as well throughout the transaction.
Has AI helped here? Because now with Claude coming in, there's Claude Law. There are, like, more uh, companies which are focusing on the law aspect as well. Does that help you? Does it make the process faster? Does it make it more cost effective? What's going on in the industry?
Correct. No, I know that's a good question, and that's the talk of the town. It's a hot topic right now. we are trying to evaluate it regularly from time to time. We are doing certain test models also across various deliverables which we have on our transactions as well. As of now, the situation has been slightly positive in a way to crunch down the timelines for certain deliverables. However, with the one of the learnings which is coming through is also this is the particular request which comes out to, whether it be Claude, or there is another platform of Harvey as well. So this is the prompt which you provide to the AI platform. The feedback comes through on that basis. So in a way, say for example, from an opinion perspective, when conducting a particular research, if if I have in my mindset that for a particular legal position, I feel only a particular step is the only appropriate step which is legally permissible. So when I prompt this question to AI, any AI platform, the AI platform also by default moves in that direction altogether. AI AI, say for example, with all respect, like a judge, say for that matter, or a court, they will not evaluate it collectively. That there is another thought process. There can be a plan B to what your question is also. That has not been the situation so far, at least basis our learnings, which needs to, I'm sure, which basis some guidance, there will be some developments also which will come through, because that will be the sort of game changer as well, from an AI usage perspective. Because if we are in a mindset of getting a feedback only basis what I would like that answer to be, that really doesn't help the purpose. But AI from that perspective is very positive in the sense of research, getting data collated from various platforms, or it could be deploy, or it could be supplying say 100 documents, 100 agreements, say for that matter, and providing a summary of those 100 agreements. That
Mhm.
is something which is purely beneficial as a basic exercise. And then there is human interface which is required to then implement the outcome which AI has produced. So
I
maybe
mean,
early stages for now. Sorry, go ahead.
mhm. Sorry. So I was just saying, it sounds like you are the driver, and depending on where you steer the wheel, which is the AI, you'll get that kind of a response. So AI is still not smart enough to give nuanced, unbiased results, and also look at 360-degree options, right? And kind of give you an advice, something like the advice you would give after 20 years working as a partner. So it's still not evolved to that level, but in a lot of ways it helps do the grunt work. It puts things together well, and if you steer it well, then you will get a good output. Am I getting it right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thought process. Because see, from AI perspective, if you see, there are various benefits which one can derive. One is, say, in terms of basic data collation slash research, which would be there, which we mentioned about one example. Second was in terms of getting an opinion or a feedback from a regulatory check perspective, as an example. Over there, it is still sort of trending towards a biased thought process, which I'm sure they will also at some point in time, whether it be it, Harvey, Claude, or other platforms as well, Chat, GTP, etc. as well, will have a way to come to a conclusion in a positive direction. Because if we see from the thought process of AI, what is AI? AI is primarily acting as a search engine. Okay, it could be through public information, or it could be some information basis which basis information what you have supplied to that platform. So in a way it is in a way it is helping towards a storyline of what is already there in the in the ecosystem. It could be, say, public information. It could be, say, SEBI website, RBI website, BSE, NSE platforms, or other platforms as well. It is not acting like a situation of getting a second opinion as such, from an independent third person who is differently thinking about that particular topic and giving a feedback towards the same.
Let's talk about the two big deals that you've done in your career. The SBI QIP in 2014, which was one of the largest equity raises. Um, when institutions that big that you're advising uh, is working with you, does that change the attitude? Does that change the process, or is it the same irrespective of whether they're small or big?
So frankly, see, I know in hindsight, now as I'm speaking more on this podcast, I'm realizing maybe it's time for me to update my profile as well. It's been quite dated because fair bit of other marquee deals which have also come through.
Let's talk
Uh,
about another deal.
uh,
Let's talk about a more
yeah,
recent, deal. Mention that, and but the question still remains:
yeah,
when you
yeah.
work with such huge institutions, do you feel different? Is the process different? Does the attitude change, or as a lawyer, honestly, it doesn't matter whether it's small or big. Your goal remains the same, and the way the deal happens is the same.
So, and I don't want to, be politically right, but the ground reality is the expectations or the requirements from us that remains the same in terms of roles and responsibilities. Number one, number two, because if a particular deal is say for example a big ticket size deal, or it's a deal in a unique sector for that matter, where you don't have much listed peers or peers who have tried to list in the recent past, over there things become slightly interesting, I would say, not challenging as such, because the nuances of, say, for example, that sector, or the officials from the company, from the founders team, or the bankers also involved in that transaction, that also bring a bit of different storyline as to what your uh, responsibility will be in that transaction. Because end of day, while you may project certain roles and responsibilities, your deliverables on each and every deliverable, on each and every transaction, on a day in and day out basis, but basis the nuances which are specifically there in marquee deals, primarily, say for example, or in deals where the sector is very unique, it could be a defense sector, or it could be any other sector as well for that matter, then the questions, the thought process change the storyline completely. Because, for example, for marquee deals, with all respect, obviously, you interact, whether it be with founders, bankers, etc. Many of these individuals are, say, IIT grads, and international management universities as well, for that matter. So the mindset is totally different, and it's needless to say it's top notch, which at least I personally feel it's more interesting, because it is something different than the boilerplate exercise which you keep on doing day in and day out on other transactions. It's not something unique which you are doing, because as a giveaway, I personally always feel that there should be something new which you should be learning from each and every transaction at the end of the transaction, or at the end of the particular milestone. The learning curve should never end. That should be the thought process which I at least try to follow. I mean, look at Ronaldo, for example. He's 41. He's still going all guns in terms of the World Cup. Maybe he may be planning for the next World Cup as well. I don't know whether this is his final World Cup or not. And at that age, it's phenomenal. So that is the thought process which is there, and it's also important that uh, the finish line is something which is by default going to happen on each and every transaction, but the maintenance, or the continuity of that situation is an important role. It's like the storyline of when I did my first transaction as an intern itself in JSA. I still remember it was STFC NCD finance deal, where because you specifically mentioned about debt as well. So over there, I finished that deal. I was very excited, and then one of my earlier mentors, late earlier mentors, Avik Sen Gupta, he mentioned that, okay, so that you finished one deal, congratulations, there you go. I've got two more to deal with. So that's been the thought process which is there, right? Because everyone has a good journey of at least maybe 2 to 3 decades in whatever um, uh, life, in whatever activity the person is doing, whether it be it, a sportsman or a professional for that matter. So that has to sort of continue, and that's important as well. One should not have a short-term arrangement or short-term thought process. Yes, if he or she is planning of something different altogether, say it could be a startup or a different business venture altogether, then that's a different storyline.
You mentioned many other marquee deals that you've done. Can you name a few? How big
Yeah.
were they?
So
Yeah.
one Correct. No, sorry, but so one recent one which we've just closed is for Craftsman Automation. That's a QIP for another 2,000 crores ticket size with Access Cap. We are the Merchant Bankers Council over there. It's again a fantastic company with very strong fundamentals from the founders, Mr. Ravi. We've done their IPO previously as well, and then a follow-on QIP 2 years back. This is the second QIP. So in a way, there is fair bit of traction with companies or with founders who have very strong fundamentals and who are able to maintain that run rate, because that is the bottom line with which investors also look at when a listing is underway, where they feel that there is a continuous pipeline from a growth perspective for the investors to put in money at the time of the IPO, and there is potential that subsequently also, not, whether be it for a particular quarter or for particular years as well, the storyline sort of continues and only evolves from there. That is the benchmark, or that is the thought process which with which investors primarily closely track when they decide in terms of investment, because we see that in many conversations also with investors, that for doing short term trades, they get fair bit of opportunities. Right now, obviously, say for example, we are in June right now. The markets have been a bit choppy so far from a launch perspective, but if you look at the numbers, whether it be for the last calendar year or a couple of years prior to that as well, at one point in time there used to be multiple IPO launches in the pipeline, many of them conflicting with each other as well from a timelines perspective. And and by people I mean to say investors. It could be FIs or domestic investors as well. Everyone evaluating in terms of which option to select, option A, option B, option C, which one is going to give me better returns, whether it be from a short term perspective or from a long term perspective as well, which is one of the primary criteria where the investors feel that I may be having a short term goal from that perspective, but net, if I can have confidence to from the promoters, from the founders, that the storyline is going to continue at least for the next 3 4 years or even thereafter as well, then it brings in more confidence. That's how we've seen it with the investors community as well, primarily when they decide to evaluate various IPO companies.
Debt versus equity. Debt is obviously a much bigger market. Do the is your focus and time predominantly in on one side versus the other? And what's more lucrative for a law firm?
So to be very candid, it's more of the former. ECM is very essential from a better, if I can put it, better EBITDA perspective. From a law firm or otherwise as well, right? I mean, everyone has to follow through an EBITDA formula, whether it be at a personal level or even at a professional level as well. So ECM, equity capital markets, hands down, gives you better returns because of how the industry has evolved over the last 5 6 years. When I have these conversations with my co-chair ECM partner Orko Mukherjee as well, where we evaluate it in terms of ECM versus DCM as well. While DCM is also important because debt financing from lenders' perspective and from borrowers' perspective is also essential, because how we see it also, if you see right now also for statistics, right, for the companies which are planning IPOs, in terms of deciding where the end use of the money is going to be deployed, fair bit of, I would say maybe around 50 to 60% at least, tends towards the direction of repaying the existing loans, because they companies want to be debt free to an extent as much as practically possible, and especially with all due respect, majority of our promoters so far are having a particular original thought process of I want to be debt free, I want to be having, say, it could be an asset light model also for that matter, but the debt free model is very essential with which they work towards, and that's why that's one of the objects typically in majority of the deals, if you look at from IPO's perspective or even QIP's perspective as well, where majority of the IPO money is deployed towards that direction. So debt is something very interesting, and whether it be from borrower's perspective or lender's perspective as well, selectively companies do evaluate it from time to time, because getting equity or doing a bit of dilution, getting into discussions in terms of valuation and other complications and timelines perspective as well, it does become a bit choppy. So debt is also an interesting product, whether it be from an NCD perspective or basic loans perspective as well. But it is slightly, maybe say, a category B or a category C, if I can put it across from a capital markets perspective, primarily in terms of the volume and in terms of the value creation factor, which you also raised about in terms of the two sectors or two segments which are there, and volume wise also, right? I mean, if you see the numbers of number of deals in terms of DHP filings for IPOs or even for QIPs as well, private placements, equity has been the forefront of the transactions.
What about competition? You alluded to the fact that once you work with a client, you end up doing the QIPs, your IPOs. That relationship continues, sometimes for decades. And you compete with the other law firms as well. Um, have you seen? And I've noticed this in investment banking as well. It's all about the trust and relationship which is built over time. And once you establish that with the promoters, they have faith in you. They want to work with you for whatever they do. Have you seen that as well? Is that the norm?
Absolutely, that is absolutely the correct understanding. That from promoters' perspective, or founders, or even CFOs for that matter, uh, once they develop a bit of confidence with the firm or with the partners involved, etc., then the storyline is going to be positive and moving towards that direction itself. Whether it be Craftsman Automation, or there are a fair bit of other players as well, Ether Industries, etc., where the clients have been continuously engaged with us, not only from a capital markets perspective, but even for other practice area exercises as well. There could be a litigation matter, there could be a competition commission CCI matter as well. So for each and every aspect, they think of at least evaluating and checking with the existing law firm or existing partner, and then on that basis they take the next steps. Obviously, many a times, the from a commercial perspective, they may consider, I mean, companies slash founders may consider going for a tier 2 or a tier 3 law firm for a limited task, for not a very mammoth task or a very big ticket deal like a unique transaction like an IPO or a QIP for that matter. But for routine task, which is not very premier as well from that perspective, then they consider exploring other firms. But net engagement is continuously there, and that's the thought process which parties or other at least councils work towards as well from a law firm perspective, to have that continuous engagement. and that's helpful as well, right? Frankly, because uh, and then that's one of the punchlines which I have in my pitch deck as well with the investors, with promoters, that the idea is to have a long-term relationship, because IPO is literally a once in a lifetime situation for the company. So they are, relying upon the parties in that transaction, whether it be, the councils or the banks. So they are solely dependent upon you. While they may have um onboarded a CFO with some experience, or a CS with a bit of experience towards that direction. But over and above that, and as they have their own core business to also operate, right? It's not that they can stop their business and come back to doing the IPO diligence and IPO support as such, right? I mean, that's why we always advise companies that, before you all do the or you'll have the clear thought of going for an IPO, the preparatory steps are very essential. We try to, advise companies from time to time to ensure that, whether it be 3 months, 6 months, or even 1 year as well, the preparatory steps towards the IPO are very essential to ensure the final mindset of having a launch by a particular fiscal year or by a particular quarter. That plays a very important role, because on the flip side, we've seen certain instances where, after the kickoff of the transaction for the IPO, for some or the other reason, there are some huge red flags or bottlenecks, because of which the deal goes completely off, or gets delayed from a timeline perspective, where they feel originally they would have thought that, we want to file the DRHP within 3 to 4 months, but thereafter it gets derailed completely. So the preparatory steps is that's one of the important factors. And in fact, many a times we, try to guide the company also to ensure that, in terms of, whether it be from a corporate governance perspective, for cleaning up their structure, for upgrading their cap table as well. These all nuances play a very important role.
If I have to draw a parallel between investment banking and corporate law, I mean, in an investment banking firm, you start as an analyst, associate, working your way up to a VP, and then as you hit VP and above that, then MD, your role kind of switches from analysis to more sales, bringing in the business for the firm, etc. What's that parallel like in the corporate law side? You've done the whole 9 yards. You started as an intern and now you are a partner. Somebody who's thinking about corporate law seriously, how do you draw this parallel? Is it the same that as you become a partner, it's more sales and bringing in the business versus actually being involved in the day to day of the transaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So couple of thoughts here. Now, one is, obviously, from at least if I can put it across, how I project this is as, I still dirty my hands in terms of, doing the diligence, having detailed conversations with the company, with the team as well, trying to figure out the red flags upfront itself before we reach that stage. Try to, forecast what can go south if a particular step is not undertaken. So, as a thumb rule, that's what I try to follow, to have a combined exercise. Number one, number two. See, frankly, it depends from, firms to firms, practice areas to practice areas, teams to teams as well, for that matter. That, once an individual becomes, or is elevated to a partnership, say, for that matter, depending upon the fact pattern of that team, the law firm, or the practice area as well, the roles and responsibility changes. In some cases, it could be strictly limited to execution. In some cases, it's a combined effort as well. In some cases, it is totally reversed in terms of primarily generating business, for that matter. So it's a mixed bag, I would say, to keep it simple. And in a way, it is also essential to, continuing with what you have originally activated your business as well, activated your work as well, right? As an, say for example, as an intern, or as a A1, as a first year associate as well, or as a junior associate as well, still sticking to the grounds, trying to get the facts right, trying to be in touch with the law as well from time to time, see what nuances can be discussed with the client, or with the investment bankers as well. I mean, the respective merchant bankers, to find a solution upfront itself and not wait for the end, when the complication is going to arise, and then there is an impact on terms of timelines or other situations as well.
So you went in terms of titles from an intern to an associate to senior associate to principal associate and then a partner. Is that Are those the titles in a law firm? Is that the stages that everyone who joins a corporate law firm goes through?
Broadly, yes. The nomenclature may, be tweaked here and there between, different law firms to an extent. But broadly, that's the growth trajectory with which one should think about from a long-term perspective. And end of day, it's, various tags. I mean, some people consider, some law firms have certain tags of counsels, etc. So that is sort of in the similar mindset, but the intention is to, finally go towards the end goal, and see, because everyone will have at least, maybe say, around good 2 to 3 decades of journey life as a lawyer, at least till the time he or she wants to continue in that practice. And
Mhm.
in many cases, certain individuals also try exploring the route of going independent altogether, setting up his or her own law firm practice altogether. That is obviously dependent on, practice area to practice area and various other criterias as well.
Have you been part of any deal which has gone wrong? Like it just didn't happen, it fell through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fair bit of deals go down that direction as well, because of various reasons. It could be like that's why we mentioned, right, that it is very essential that, the red flags can be pulled out upfront, whether it be, at the preparatory stage, or even when the deal is ongoing. So fair bit of deals have happened, and are still happening across the industry, given the volume also involved. But the intention, or rather the objective in such situation, is to still try to find a way out. Maybe say have a conversation with SEBI or BSE NSE to ensure that, that situation doesn't become an actual red flag for a company to go for an IPO, because the intention is there. That's where we always, when we have the first round of conversations with the founders or with the promoters, the intention should be there from their side, that they want to actually list, whether it be it for optics, whether it be it for giving an exit to the investors, or they would like to liquidate as well, to an extent from their holding perspective. So whatever may be the mindset with which they are doing a listing, but the intention and the mindset should be there towards doing the listing, and get these sort of red flags ironed out. But to answer your question specifically, there have been fair bit of deals in the market as well, where, say, either before DRHP filing itself, you've hit a bottleneck, and you can't go forward. Or on the flip side, after filing the DRHP as well, just maybe during the launch stage as well, it doesn't go through. Many a times it is also at that stage. Many a times it's also one of the reasons in terms of market conditions, demand as well, for that particular company. Because like we mentioned previously, right, that say in the previous years, and still right now as well, that's the storyline, that many a times the investors will think twice before putting in money in an IPO, as they would do in case of any other product as well. That if the storyline is not interesting for them, or if they feel from a valuation perspective there is a mismatch between what is expected by the founders versus what the investors perceive as per their calculations, then the deals don't go through positively. So
So
And
many.
that's the yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So many years of doing deals. I mean, you must have learned a ton about people, human nature, how they behave when deals are won or lost. Um, what has it taught you about people? Because there's so much money involved, and you're like right at the thick of things, right? You know how much is at stake, not only for founders who built this over a generation or two, or I mean, this is serious money. This is wealth that they never have to work for again. And of course, you want to list for the right reasons. You want to make sure that they're still running the business. But has there been any mental model which has stuck to you about just human nature after doing so many deals?
So no, that's an interesting conversation which you've put across. So if you see, Roger Federer as well, in his Dartmouth College commencement address, he mentioned specifically that he's been there all throughout, and he's been ranking in all tournaments from that perspective. But and he mentioned, unfortunately, I don't have the numbers upfront in the back of my head, but he mentioned in terms of numbers as well, right? The number of matches he's won, etc. That's not been great. That's not been very
It's
substantive.
just
That's not been very
I
encouraging.
remember the speech. I think it's just over 50%, maybe
Yeah,
52%.
exactly. Correct.
Or
That's
maybe like
correct.
it's
That's
just
correct.
like a few percentages points more is the difference between greatness and just one more has been.
Correct.
And Yeah, I remember the speech. It's an amazing speech. But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Very inspiring, and that's the ethos which I follow through. In my conversations with various universities and colleges. Also, when I give them lectures, there are a couple of them lined up early next year as well, early in next few months as well, where the thought process that we should have uh, a strong mindset to continue even in these challenging moments, because even after one red flag or one situation where the deal is not going through, or you've got a negative feedback from a client, from anyone else for that matter, you have to stick to your mindset, get the steps in terms of whatever corrections you need to undertake, and move ahead. And on the flip side as well, say for example there has been a particular month or particular period where you've been doing fantastically well, you've done 2 to 3 deals for that matter, strongly, it has garnered great subscriptions as well. But then you should not be just be to broadcasting about those situations as well. So humbleness is something which is essential in all of these cases, whether it be it's a tough one or it's a good one as well. But continue with the mindset and with the intention with which you have towards whatever your goal may be, from a long term perspective. So that's one giveaway, which with which at least I try to operate, and that's why I'm just trying to highlight that one of my previous or one of my earlier mentors, later Vexen Gupta, also mentioned that, hey, so that you finish one deal, there you go. I've got 2 other deals to for you to work on. So be humble, continue with the task, and that's how you'll be able to garner that mindset also onto the next set of individuals, whether it be in your team, or it could be with the company team as well, or counterparty as well for that matter.
When a negotiation gets tense, and I'm sure you've been in a few of those, what do you do? Do you stay calm and to think clearly? Do you not react? Do you take a break and come back? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that happens day in and day out many a times, in terms of certain agreements or certain topics as well. But the thought process is to try to find a middle ground. As we spoke briefly some time back as well, the intention is to close. The mindset is to have an ending in the direction which is to an extent beneficial for all parties. Try to say for example, if there is a red flag or if there is a challenging situation from the counterparty as well on a particular point, try to see how or to what extent are you getting exposed, what is your liability attached if you were to give up that point. So you do that, you do those checks and balances, and then on that basis try to find a conclusion. Because unlike, with all due respect, unlike an M&A sort of a situation where it gets into much tougher negotiations in terms of the SHA agreement or SP agreement or any other drafts or any other discussion points as well. In terms of capital markets, whether it be for IPOs, QIPs, it is slightly more diluted because the goal is to move towards the common objective of doing the IPO, and that's where the edge comes through in terms of finding a way as to decide or to evaluate in terms of what is your exposure. Are you really losing out on anything? Are you going to be, say, for example, on a lighter note, are you going to be bankrupt? Is your liability going to be that expansive if you lose out on that point? What is the downside? That's the limited point.
How do you define success, both personally and professionally?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and my wife and I, we keep on discussing this day in and day out. Uh, we see every day is different. I know you are also sort of going through it, but still maybe early days for you. I'm sure it's equally challenging for you at a personal level. But the idea is to see on a day in and day out basis, maintain a bit of good decorum overall, whether it be from a personal perspective or professional perspective. See how best you can achieve what you want to achieve, whether it be in a personal manner, whether it be from a personal relationship perspective, whether it be to with your wife or with your family members, with your kids, etc., or even at a personal level or even at a professional level as well. Because maybe I'm repeating myself, but it is a long-term journey. Success is something which you shouldn't be calculating basis one or two deals or a particular number of deals. I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why maybe I've not never ever after a certain amount of time updated my CV as well. That beyond a point, I don't see any benefit, frankly, any value add in terms of updating your CVs, whether in terms of new deals, marquee deals, or demonstrating in terms of the volume of deals also which you've undertaken. Because you have to treat it more gradually and naturally. You Yes, you, everyone has a goal, personally and professionally. Everyone has a top 10 ideas in terms of I want to achieve this, or I want to set up my house, or I want to do XYZ other activities. But the endeavor is to have a straightforward, simple mindset. I try to follow a bit of minimalistic approach, which obviously not very ideal sometimes for some individuals. But just try to see how best you can fit through. Be flexible. That's important. Because in today's day and age, with the in way industry is also moving, just overall, from Indian economics perspective as well, how we are gradually moving, and we are going to go north only from here. There is no looking back for that matter. Yes, there will be ups and downs, there will be volatile situations. It's like that situation, right? That after the war, there will be some other thing which will pop up out of the blue later this year or next year as well. But we have to be available to address it and tackle it upfront as we go ahead, and set obviously benchmarks time to time. Say, have role models. I respect, and I just follow Ronaldo also as to what he's been doing. So just keep it simple. That's the bottom line with which I try to follow through.
If you were to rank health, wealth, relationship, and purpose, how would you prioritize them? What's number one?
Can I club all of them in number one? Is that an option? Because I feel every like I mentioned, right? It's every day is going to be different, and in a day as well, right? In 24 hours, while you may be uh, trying to catch up on a sleep for 6 to 7 hours, for the balance period, there will be fair bit of volcanoes, fair bit of challenges which will come through, fair bit of good news also which will come through. So it's going to be a mixed bag. So everything, I know I may be sounding politically right, but one has to try to balance it out well, and see and it's important as well, right? Because if we were to, if anyone for that matter, and it's not limited to from a corporate lawyer perspective, or otherwise as well. It's primarily just as a general mindset, whether it be an individual who's a founder, or who has his own business, or a professional as well. That there will be challenges. Importance of each and every points which you mentioned needs to be given appropriate weightage. Yes, it can be timely based as well. Uh, and then you plan it out well. That's the I would say the summary which I would like to follow, and that's why I mentioned that I would like to put a number one for all of those 4 5 criterias.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, last few quick fire questions. If you weren't in deal making, what profession would you pursue?
Interesting. My wife and I keep on discussing this often. I don't know. Maybe I would be a pilot because I love traveling.
Okay.
Maybe a pilot, or in the aviation industry, uh, because both my wife and I love traveling. My family members also, we love traveling. So that could be one of the areas.
Favorite country, city, place to visit?
Ooh. Barcelona.
Well, I love it. I studied
Yeah.
in Barcelona and near Camp Nou. I got to see
Oh,
Messi play,
fantastic.
so I
Oh,
absolutely like it.
superb.
Amazing, amazing.
Yep. Yep.
It's a beautiful city. Two mountains, a beach. You can walk it.
Exactly.
Very, very nice. Yeah. One professional, personal and professional goal you haven't achieved yet.
In terms of personal goal, being a more active father, that I've not been able to achieve. Still trying to do that. I'll be candid on that one. And from a professional growth perspective, frankly, there's no end to it. I keep on having this conversation with my co-chair partner as well, Orko, that there is no end to it. There is good potential. Our JMPs at JSA as well are very positive in that mindset as well. So it will be difficult to set a baseline for that matter, because it's purely open ended, and frankly that's how, I mean, while yes you can have numbers that, I don't know, achieve a revenue target for so and so number for FY27, etc., and with a increment of, at least 10 to 15% year on year basis, etc. That's all good for the Excel sheets. But from a mindset perspective, it is to naturally keep on progressing and develop overall as a good human being as well, which will in a way help you to develop in terms of your professional thought processes as well.
Is there any one habit or routine that's made the biggest difference in your success?
I feel getting up early, being disciplined in terms of your timetable, uh, that has helped me very much, uh, and it has only improved, courtesy my son as well, who's an early riser. I won't take the credit of that. That's all courtesy
What
my wife,
time?
but
What time does he wake you up?
at least 5:30 to 6. I mean, in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. My
So
daughter
it's
also
been.
starts moving at around 6 o'clock. Last night it was 3 o'clock, so we're together.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I
um,
can understand.
Siddharth, this was amazing. You had an interesting career, and I hope we reconnect maybe another 10, 15 years, and you've done another zillion dollars and thousands of crores in deals, and we can talk about the nuances of the things that you learned. But I appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on Masters of the Deal.